10 sinister and spine-chilling Appalachian woods tales exposed. Disturbing truths you never knew. The sun hung low, casting long shadows across the weathered faces of Leah Johnson and her 2 restless children. In rural Appalachia, vibrant greens contrasted sharply against the crumbling storefronts lining Main Street. But that day, fear hung in the air, a palpable tension binding the community together, yet also tearing it apart. Beneath this picturesque facade, something unspeakable lurked. Leah's youngest, Ben, had just returned from a camping trip, his youthful spirit snuffed out like a candle in the wind. His wide eyes, once bright with excitement, now darted nervously as he whispered about eyes watching him from the trees, shadows that twisted and turned just out of sight. Leah brushed it off, just another childhood phase. She wanted to believe it, needed to. Roots of anxiety twisted in her gut, but she stuffed them down like a worn quilt against the backdrop of craggy mountains. The old diner buzzed with the familiar sounds of sizzling bacon and clattering dishes. Yet Leah couldn't shake the chill that crept into her bones. At night, the once cozy sounds of the woods morphed into rustling branches and distant, anguished cries that gnawed at her sanity, like jagged teeth scraping against the silence. Neighborhood whispers twisted around her, always hesitating at the mention of the abandoned coal mine miles from town. What lies buried resonated ominously, while children vanished like smoke. Leah's heart pounded as she pieced the puzzle together. The tales of miners wronged, spirits of the past seeking vengeance, grew like weeds within her mind. She felt the community's unease wrapped around her like a suffocating cloak, trapping her inside a world of suspicions. She gripped her phone tightly that day, fingers trembling as she reached out to the sheriff's office. Their dismissals echoed in her ears like the distant cries warnings to keep her children close. But no answers. "I'm just being paranoid," she told herself. But when Ben began to scream in the night, tangled and twisted within his nightmares, Leah's self-doubt consumed her. Shadows danced along their walls, trapped light flickering against grotesque, twisted forms. "There's someone out there, Mom," he would scream, breathless with terror. And she'd hold him close, praying he was just a little boy letting his imagination run wild. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. The days turned dark, like thunderclouds gathering above the hills, and the unsettling phenomena intensified. More children went missing. Neighbors used to smile and wave now avoided her gaze, their whispers carrying a weight greater than the Appalachian fog. One evening, everything came to a head. The cacophony from the forest pierced through the stillness of night, each cry dragging Leah to the edge of her limitations. Ben's voice called out from the darkness, urging her closer. With trembling hands and a racing heart, she followed the sound down an unseen path deeper into the woods, where twisted branches clawed at her arms. The gravity of ancestral sins wrapped tighter around her, smothering her resolve. And then, she felt it, a presence, an ancient and sinister force closing in, pulling her deeper into its embrace. With every step, the chilling echoes of children's laughter pierced through the looming silence, haunting her as shadows flickered like memories she couldn't grasp. As she stumbled forward, dread pooling in her stomach, Leah knew. The mine was more than a dark place, the town pulsed with malevolence. Just as laughter burst forth, chilling her to the bone, she realized the true horror was just beginning. What had her community buried, and what would it cost her to unearth it? The ground beneath Leah's feet felt alive, pulsating with secrets and sorrows of generations past. Each step deeper into the woods only heightened her sense of dread. The laughter that echoed around her shifted. It was no longer the innocent melody of children playing, but something darker, laden with agony and despair. It twisted through the air like smoke, wrapping around her throat, choking any semblance of courage she could muster. "Ben," She called out, her voice cracking under the weight of anxiety. The silence that followed seemed to smirk at her. The forest was too quiet, too watchful, as though the very trees judged her for her intrusion. Shadows loomed, stretching in the fading light, playing tricks on her mind. She was alone, completely alone, even if she could still hear her son calling. His voice clinging to the edges of her panic. Drawing in a shaky breath, she pressed on, the underbrush whispering at her ankles, as if urging her back. Just a little farther, she whispered to herself, demanding strength from her faltering resolve. Then, a rustling to her left. She froze, heart pounding a frantic tattoo against her ribs. It wasn't the wind. It was something alive, something watching. "Mom?" came Ben's voice again, a strangled plea through the stillness. She angled her head, desperate to pinpoint the source, but the shadows only grew denser, more oppressive. She could feel them creeping around her, brushing against her sides, leaving behind an unseen residue of dread. Against her instinct, she continued forward, drawn by maternal instinct and terror alike. The laughter returned, disembodied and shrill, each peal striking her like a hammer. Felt wrong, twisted into something unrecognizable. The hairs on the back of her neck stood at attention. "Mom! Help!" Now there was urgency in his voice. Each cry shattered her resolve a little further. Leah rushed toward the sound, limbs trembling, desperation overshadowing rational thought. The path narrowed, branches weaving together to form a gnarled canopy overhead, suffocating the moonlight and twisting the air into an altar of gloom. Then she saw it just up ahead, a flicker of movement. Ben! Relief surged through her, but as she pushed forward, reality twisted harshly. The form was not entirely him. It was a silhouette with limbs askew, face shadowed and the laugh now a taunting echo. "Come play, Mom!" It called with Ben's voice, a sinister mockery that coiled around her senses. "Ben!" she screamed, lunging forward, fear spurring her into a sprint. But the woods responded. Branches clawed at her and roots surged from the ground, tripping her. She fell hard, the breath knocked from her lungs, every instinct screaming to get up, to keep running. But something was holding her back, some unspeakable force rooted in this cursed land. She struggled to rise, the laughter intensifying, entwining with sorrow as dark shapes began to emerge from the trees. Shadowy figures with hollow eyes locked onto her, their mouths stretching into leathered grins. They moved closer, inch by terrifying inch. Each was a child who should have been safe and alive. But here they were, reaching out in a lost cadence of hunger and despair. "Join us," they whispered, a chorus of lost souls, threading through her mind and drowning her in despair. Leah's heart raced wildly as she realized the truth. These were not mere whispers. They were echoes of the children claimed by the mine, lost to the earth, their memories forever stamped in this dark world. Just as panic surged again, a booming crash echoed from behind her. Something stirred in the depths of the shadows, a warning growl vibrating through the ground, drawing all attention away from her. She watched in horror as one of the children turned, eyeing the unseen thing lurking behind the trees. And in that moment, Leah knew the forest held not only lost children but something far more dangerous, a guardian of its dark secrets. And it was coming for her. What else awaited her in the suffocating darkness? Could she save Ben before it was too late? With terror coursing through her veins, she prepared to face whatever nightmare lay ahead. The ground trembled again, this time with a low, rumbling growl that resonated through her bones. Leah's heart skipped. The laughter faded into a low murmur, growing more insistent and ominous, as if the darkness was plotting against her. What was coming? Every instinct screamed for her to run. But the children with their hollow eyes surrounded her now, their sad smiles painted across ghostly faces. "Please," she begged, looking at the lost souls before her. "Where's my son?" They all pointed, fingers stretching like thin branches towards the deepest shadows. "He plays." One whispered, its voice sticky with despair. "Play? What game is that?" She started to crawl backward, but the children closed in. They were a living wall of sorrow and loss, their laughter warping into an echo of her own fears. Leah's chest tightened. Then there was the crash again, louder, sending the children scattering into the foliage, hiding from whatever creature prowled the perimeter of their realm. The momentary distraction gave Leah a sliver of hope. She scrambled to her feet, the tangle of roots threatening to swallow her, but she pushed on. "Ben!" she screamed, feeling the words tear from her throat. Every inch of the woods seemed to pulse as if they were alive, an entity aware of her presence. Darkness thickened. Mingling with her disbelief and growing dread, a glimmer drew her eye, a flash like fireflies in the dimness, golden strands weaving through the encroaching blackness. Was it another trick? Or a way to find her son? "Mom!" The voice was faint but clear, almost swallowed by the gloom, inviting yet dripping with fear. Leah followed it, moving toward the flicker. Her heart raced as she forged through the canopy, limbs reaching out like fingers of the dead. But that flicker transformed into a ribbon of light, taunting, pulsating with life. Was it a way out or deeper into the abyss? She felt the tug of the forest, battling against her will. The shadows twisted, contorting into specters that whispered her name. She shuddered. "I just need to find him." As she approached the light, it dimmed. The lingering shadows warped again, this time forming words that fluttered through the stale air like moths drawn to a flame. "Leave now. You won't leave him. He's ours." The chill in the air licked at her skin, deepening her sense of despair. "No, I won't abandon Ben." Desperation ignited her determination. She pushed through the fading light with every ounce of strength, adrenaline pouring through her veins. Suddenly, the ground shifted beneath her, and she stumbled into a clearing, the moonlight spilling coldly over an ancient stone well. Dark energy seeped from it, swirling like smoke. The laughter wrapped around her again, thick like fog, drowning her out. "Ben!" she called, voice trembling. The children reappeared, whispering together, their words like soft blades in her mind. "You need to decide, or they're trapped forever." Trapped? Leah felt icy fingers curling around her throat. She knew the truth: they had all been trapped here, souls lost to the depths of this haunted earth. And as the shadows advanced, the guardian of the woods revealed itself, towering above her now. It loomed like a storm, heavy and dark, with piercing glowing eyes that sliced through her prospect of escape. "Make a choice, Leah," it growled, voice rumbling like thunder. The weight of the woods pressed down harder, leaving no room for thought, only instinct. She could feel time slipping away, like grains of sand in an hourglass, and a single question echoed in her mind. To save Ben, what must she lose? As the ground rumbled again, she cast a desperate glance back. The darkness thrummed with life. Waiting, always waiting. What would she sacrifice to save her child? Or would she too be claimed by this dark realm? The answer lingered as shadows drew closer, the guardian watching with a smirk, a predator waiting for its prey. Leah's mind raced, drowning in the weight of the decision forced upon her. The guardian's eyes glowed brighter, revealing the many faces that twisted within its dark frame, a jumbled mass of anguish, each pair of eyes pleading with her. Was Ben among them? The scent of decay and despair thickened, clawing at her lungs. "Make a choice," it whispered again, each word dripping with malice. "Please," she gasped, desperation clawing at her throat. "I'll do anything." The children's laughter warped around her, wavering like a candle flickering in a storm. What did they want? What could she possibly offer that would be enough to save her son? The well behind her suddenly pulsed with a sickly light. The shadows above wavered and coalesced, longing to consume her. She turned slightly, fearing she might see what lay within. Voices bubbled up, raw and hungry. "Ben!" she screamed, feeling the world tilt beneath her. "Please, just let me see him." As if summoned by her cries, the ground cracked open, revealing a black maw, teeming with restless whispers that promised salvation. Leah's heart raced, but one step toward it felt like betrayal. "What do I need to do?" Leah fixed her gaze on the guardian, anger burning in her chest. The thought of losing Ben was unbearable, but the idea of trading her spirit for his freedom felt worse. "Sacrifice," it intoned ominously, thick baritone resonating like thunder in the hollow of night. "Sacrifice what?" Leah shouted, forcing air into her burning lungs as panic threatened to swallow her whole. The innocent, the living, the laughter surged again, a haunting melody mixing with the sighs of the forest. Leah realized the truth: there was no way out for her unless someone else took her place. The laughter of the children echoed in her ears, a cruel reminder of what this place demanded. The absurdity of it all hit her like a cold slap. "No," she began, shaking her head furiously, yet there sat the weight of the choice in her stomach. Their eyes around her sparkled with anticipation, shadows swaying as if addicted to her fear. She could hear Ben's voice, whispering through the chaos, pleading for her to let him go. "Mom!" His voice trembled, now mere fragments woven into the fabric of the night. Leah felt the ground buckle beneath her feet, a sudden rush of wind blasting against her skin, and within it all, a brilliant flash, her last glimpse of the flicker that had beckoned her, now vanishing. "Don't give up, Ben," she cried, but her words were barely more than a whisper against the groaning trees. The guardian towered, mouths forming grotesque smiles as they waited for her descent into madness. Each heartbeat echoed louder than the last, and the darkness seemed to lick at her edges. Every breath pushed her closer to despair, blurring the lines between reality and nightmare. She felt the dread creeping in, instinctually drawn to the singular truth. To save him, she might have to become the monster herself. "Step forward," the guardian coaxed, its voice slick with hunger. The children circled her, their eyes shining like polished stones, plunging her deeper into the spiraling abyss. "Choose your sacrifice," they whispered, voices a cold breeze that chilled her skin. Choose. It was a mantra, an incantation hanging in the air, growing heavier by the second. But what choice existed among the shadows? The guardian watched her intensely, each pulse of darkness growing stronger, echoing her heart's frantic rhythm. In that moment, Leah's mind flashed to the lost children. Lost souls extricating their pain. Didn't he feel like saving her son? It felt like sealing their fate instead. With a clarity she hadn't felt before, she finally understood. There was only one true choice. Leah took a breath as the realization enveloped her. But was she willing to pay the ultimate price? Would she truly embrace the darkness to save the light? The question hung between them, drawing closer, swelling into the very fabric of the night. What fate awaited her should she step into that churning abyss? Would it be salvation or a fate far worse? The air thickened around Leah as the guardianess whispers swirled, creeping into her thoughts like a poison. Every choice twisted into a dark spiral beneath the surface. She could feel the weight of countless souls aching for freedom, trapped within the ethereal glow of the guardianess eyes. In that moment, everything felt alive: the trees, the ground, the very air curling around her like a noose. What stood before her was more than just a monster. It was a manifestation of every horror she had ever known, and yet, it thrived on hope mixed with despair. The children's laughter dissolved into chilling echoes, merging with Ben's pleading cries. Leah's subconscious did a frantic dance between denial and acceptance. Time fractured as she was paralyzed by the weight of her decision. "Ben needs you to be brave," a voice in her heart whispered, fighting against the turmoil. But the guardianess laughter echoed louder, mocking her inner strength, pulling her into the abyss deeper still. "Is he worth it?" the guardian hissed, each syllable striking like a whip against her resolve. "One life for another. Your choice is a bargain." Leah, a tendril of dark, murky energy snaked toward her, grazing her arm. She gasped as a surge of cold coursed through her, igniting every fear she had ever held. Visions of Ben writhing in agony danced across her mind. Would he suffer if she failed to act? Would this malevolent presence consume him entirely? "Choose," it hissed, the words dripping with anticipation and hunger. Leah felt sweat drench her brow. Did she dare to plunge into the darker depths, to become a shadow herself? Each heartbeat rang louder in her ears. She closed her eyes, gathering all her memories: his laughter, his smile, the way his tiny fingers wrapped around hers. Those moments fueled her defiance. But the laughter turned into a cacophony, twisting her memories, turning joy into mockery. Let us out. The children sang, their voices fraying her sanity like thin strings snapping one by one. Sacrifice is the only way. Despair clawed at her chest as she gritted her teeth against the truth. She could feel the pulsing void beckoning her closer, hunger radiating from the shadows that surrounded her. The boundary between her choices began to blur, and panic dripped like sweat down her brow. With sudden clarity, she opened her eyes. I won't choose anyone else. The words tore from her throat, raw and powerful, but the guardian merely grinned wider, as though the unprecedented defiance heightened its joy. Then you choose yourself, your soul. The shadows began to swirl more violently, whispering promises laced with dread. What if you alone are what it desires? No, Leah cried out, but her voice barely broke through the harrowing laughter. A chasm of whispers swirled, ensnaring her thoughts. The guardian stepped closer, forcing Leah to feel the acrid dread of true sacrifice bubbling beneath her skin. Embrace your darkness, Leah. Save your son and, in the end, save yourself. The ground quivered, and instead of falling backward, Leah felt an unearned certainty settle. This was a test of will, testing not her strength, but the essence of her heart. The temperature dropped, and shadows closed in, each inch fraught with despair. Mom, that voice again, piercing through the chaos. Please, a decision loomed, but a flicker of hope ignited. Could she rewrite the rules? Could she change the game and face the guardian with an unsullied heart? In that flickering hope, a dangerous plan unfurled. As the tension reached a peak, Leah took a step toward the dark mouth that beckoned, feeling the fabric of fate shift beneath her. But in doing so, she realized the true horror of what it meant to fight back against a fate written in blood. Would she become the very nightmare she sought to escape? Did the guardian already possess her, seeking to consume her just as she sought to save Ben? And as Leah leaned forward into the abyss, everything around her began to fracture. What if her true sacrifice was yet to come? The very earth shivered beneath Leah. It was no longer merely a battleground of will. The ground was alive, writhing like a coiled serpent anticipating a strike. The shadows danced, expanding and contracting with a mind of their own, twisting reality into a surreal nightmare. Leah could feel the palpable dread close in, a thick fog of despair raising goosebumps on her arms. Look at what you're becoming, the guardian taunted, its voice like burning coal. Hope wrapped in desperation, you're teetering on the edge. So much potential for darkness, can you resist? Leah clenched her fists, fighting against the icy tendrils of despair. I won't give in, she shouted, but doubt encroached, gnawing at her resolve. The guardianess voice wound around her like a vice. Then come closer. Let me show you the truth of your heart. A blinding flash ignited, and Leah stumbled, temporarily disoriented. When her vision cleared, she found herself in a twisted reflection of her world. The trees were gnarled and skeletal, their branches curling like clawed hands reaching for her sanity. The laughter of children turned sinister, morphing into cries and wails that pierced the air, ringing with an echo of her own fears. Mom! Ben's voice cut through the chaos, a lifeline in this dark realm. But it was laced with a frightening echo, a suggestion of suffering just out of view. Help me, Ben! She screamed, desperation turning her voice raw. I'm coming. But the world around her twisted once more, pulling her back into shadows, deeper into the guardian's trap. Hear the cries? The guardian coiled closer, brushing against her cheek with a tendril so cold it felt like death itself. They all want you. They want freedom. But freedom comes at a price. A whisper slithered around her, taunting. Why should you fight for one when countless souls are trapped in here? You feel their pain, their wrath. Wouldn't it be simpler to take the deal? To rid them all of their torment, and let it flow through you? Her heart thundered against her ribs as she was reminded of time slipping away. How could she help her son while losing herself? The struggle clawed at the back of her mind, scratching at who she was. The guardian stepped back, its eyes glinting like polished obsidian. Become the embodiment of their rage. Channel it, and in return, your son shall be freed. No, the cry shot from her lips, surprising even her. I want to take what isn't mine. I want to hurt others. But as Leah's voice faded, dark shadows seeped into her thoughts, whispering soft promises of power, potential a seductive pull. She felt a thread of her very being tugged away, as if by some invisible hand, teasing her to give in and unleash every sordid thought she battled within. Can you feel it? The guardian cooed, its tone dripping with satisfaction. The weight of their anguish is heavy. You alone can set them free, and in that act, find your own salvation. Suddenly, Leah felt the ground tremble again, a low, resonating growl echoing through the trees. It wasn't the wind, something worse lurked beyond. She knew every second counted. She had to make her move, to resist the enticing depths the guardian promised. But before she could act, a scream erupted from the shadows, sharp and agonizing. Leah froze as the anguished wail hit her like a freight train, the very essence of her own fears manifesting to pull her under. She felt the air growing dense, warp, as an entity beyond the guardian began to materialize, writhing in pain and fury. Choose it rasped, as the ground shattered beneath her feet. Leah steadied her trembling heart. The stakes were rising, and now she had to confront not just the guardian, but whatever portend of doom bubbled beneath the surface. What had she truly summoned? And in that defining moment of tension, she prepared to plunge not just into the abyss, but into the very heart of darkness itself. What would she unleash upon the world? The shadows curled tighter, engulfing Leah as she felt the ground beneath her transform into a pit of despair. The angry whispers intensified, swirling around her like a swarm. She could hardly breathe. Time felt elastic, stretching between moments of clarity and the suffocating dark, drawing her into an uncertainty no one dares to face. Choose the voice, raw and jagged, pulsed through her veins like venom. It promised liberation, a way to snatch her son from the clutches of nightmare. But the cost loomed like a storm on the horizon, lurking with claws outstretched. Suddenly, the air filled with a rancid stench, like decay mixed with something unnameable. Leah's stomach turned, and she stumbled back, her eyes darting around for an escape. The entity writhed closer, ripping through the shadows with a grotesque elegance. It was massive, its form flickering between shapes, each more horrifying than the last. Leah's heart raced like a drum, grotesque visions of failure flooding her mind. Your soul, it hissed through teeth that looked like broken glass, glinting ominously in the dim light. You sacrifice, but what will you gain? Ben, she shouted, the name tearing from her throat like a lifeline in the chaos. The guardianess laughter echoed in her ears, a wicked symphony of glee. You seek to bring back hope through desire. But desire only begets pain. Do you even know who you're bargaining with? With trembling hands, she fought against the darkness encroaching on her thoughts. No matter how terrifying the truth, she had to stand tall, a single flame against the maw of shadows. I'll find him, she yelled defiantly, willing her will to merge with the flickering edges of light still remaining in her heart. Just then, an unearthly roar erupted from the entity. It shattered the chilling silence, reverberating off the gnarled trees like thunder. Leah felt a vibration deep in her core, each frequency a warning, each pulse a reminder of what was at stake. The chaos surged as tendrils of darkness lashed out, seeking to pull her deeper. She closed her eyes and felt the cold grip of despair. Through the darkness, echoes of her past flickered each moment with Ben, each laugh, each tear. I want to let them take you, Ben. A sickening stillness descended. For a brief moment, Leah felt a wave of calm wash over her. The shadows hesitated, as if recoiling from her conviction. But that peace shattered as the entity lunged forward, spewing a torrent of cursed energy. Leah gasped, her senses ablaze, and she dove to the side just in time to evade the fury aimed at her. Total darkness awaits you, it roared, jagged syllables looming ominously in the charged air. The ground shook violently, jagged fissures appearing like gaping mouths ready to swallow her whole. Choose. The guardianess voice turned sultry, laced with temptation. Together you can save him or be consumed by the infinite. You are the key. You are everything. Her mind faltered momentarily. What had she become? In the echo of the guardian's words, uncertainty seeped in. Would she truly be saving Ben, or dooming them both in her quest for salvation? With every breath, she could feel the darkness clamoring for entry, clawing at her mind as it offered her the power to twist fate. Leah's body was tired, but her spirit burned bright. I want to become a monster. The world pulsed around her, shadows swirling as if in answer. The entity laughed, a horrible, booming sound that filled her with dread. Then feel their pain. Let it consume you. Outside the chaotic swirl, there was a flicker Ben's face, glowing faintly in the dark. In that moment, Leah felt an intense connection shoot through her, a lifeline amidst despair. With a determination that overrode her fear, she stepped forward, ready to confront the unseen horror that threatened to consume everything. I will not be silent. I choose love over fear. But as those words escaped her lips, the circle of shadows expanded hungrily, and the force of the guardianess promise loomed over her like an executioner's gallows. Your defiance ends now. The ground quaked once more, threatening to split open beneath her as the truth hung suspended in the air. The darkness enveloped her deeper, but in that swirling mass of fear, Leah felt something stir. Was it courage, or something far darker? And then, a question flickered painfully in her mind. Had she truly just sealed her fate, or had she opened a path to something far more horrifying? The moment Leah steadied herself amid the swirling shadows, she could feel a sudden shift in the air. The stench intensified. Rotten earth mingled with something metallic, something she feared she recognized. Panic lanced through her veins as she thought of Ben. How could she save him if this monstrous force was swallowing her whole? Do it! The guardianess voice reverberated, driving nails of dread into her mind. Embrace the darkness. Feel its power. For only through your suffering can you hope to claw back that which is lost. But she could not wait. Not while Ben was trapped in this nightmare. Heart pounding, Leah looked toward the flickering image of her son, shimmering like a mirage in the distance. His face was pale, his eyes wide, reflecting terror that twisted her heart like a knife. With sheer force of will, she launched into the darkness, reaching for him. The shadows recoiled as she grasped at the light, a desperate feeling stirring within her. But the entity would not relent. Tendrils lashed out, coiling tightly around her limbs, pulling her, dragging her backward into the maw of despair. You will always be mine, it hissed, breath pungent with malice. I refuse, Leah shrieked, fighting against the darkness. The shadows slithered tighter, claws of despair digging into her skin. But with each pulse of her heart, she recalled Ben's laughter, the soft sound of him asking her to read his favorite story, the way he looked before bed, eyes fluttering with dreams. I will not yield. The shadows shivered, a furious wind of anguish howling around her. With each defiant thought, she felt her own essence dulling as glimpses of dark memories clawed at her, pulling her closer to oblivion. Remember the loss, the pain, the guardian whispered, its voice a cut through the veil of silence. Your heart is a feast for despair. Suddenly, Leah found herself back in her home, the memories flooding her mind like water into a broken dam. The laughter, the tears, the empty room where Ben should be. She felt a suffocating weight upon her chest as memories morphed into a haunting vision of her son crying out for help. Suddenly, the shadows erased the image, replacing it with an endless void, a time-worn grief. No, not again, she screamed, pushing against the tide of darkness threatening to consume her spirit. She was slipping, the cold hand of despair grasping tighter. It surged forward again, propelling her backward into the depths of the void. To save him, you must surrender. The entity loomed, now towering over her, stretching its monstrous shadow to blot out all remnants of light. Leah closed her eyes tight, feeling her heartbeat race. This was the moment. The price was too steep, yet giving in felt like slipping into a silk cocoon, a warmth promising escape. Would she rather suffer for her child than sacrifice everything? Each breath echoed in her mind like the toll of a bell, a countdown to her decision. The silence pounded against her as anticipation crackled in the air. Leah had to wrestle for her mind, confront the choices that would carve her future. "I will save him," she gasped, and it startled through her like lightning. But just as she lifted the weight of her spirit, she felt something shift. A flicker of doubt, a twinge of hesitation coursed through her. "Together we can unleash a force beyond your imagination," the guardian purred, its voice a twisted lullaby. "You only need to trust me." In that moment her chest constricted painfully. The shadows paused, lingering between her resolve and the enticing call of darkness. Leah was left teetering on the edge, one step away from unfathomable power or utter despair. And then, that flicker caught her eye again. The image of Ben, closer now, as if he was reaching out towards her through that swirling chaos. But the whispers were louder now, drowning her thoughts. Did she dare to step forward or retreat? In a world where fate twisted like the gnarled branches above, which choice would lead her back to her son? As the shadows quaked around her, Leah felt the sharp bite of indecision, and that when her heart shattered. "Choose, Leah," the depths murmured, the darkness tightening as she grappled with her next move. Choose quickly, and in that dreadful, suspended moment, she sensed the depth of an unseen danger, a truth that could unravel everything she thought she knew. The forest fell silent, echoing dread as twilight deepened. What awaited her on the other side? The air crackled, heavy with anticipation. Shadows flickered, swirling like the anxious thoughts in Leah's mind. She was suspended between two choices, each drenched in desperation. "Choose, Leah." The guardian's voice was a low whisper, curling around her thoughts, seducing her strength. "Your heart knows the way." But her heart did not know the weight of loss had blurred the lines. The specter of Ben's face danced like a moth before the flame, enticing and terrifying. Each second stretched, the darkness pulsating with a life of its own, pinching her resolve. Ignoring the guardian's words, Leah reached out again, limbs shaking against the vicious tangle of shadows. "Ben." Her voice cracked, raw with fear. "I'm coming." As if summoned, the darkness tightened around her, pulling her down deeper. Pain shot through her limbs, every grasp of despair a brutal reminder of what she had to conquer. In that suffocating hold, she felt memories clawing at her, a swath of terror and anguish. The haunted whispers grew more insistent, filling the void like a symphony of despair. "Why fight it? You can have him back. Embrace the darkness. It will give you power." "No," she screamed. "You don't get to decide." Her will flared, and for a moment, the shadows recoiled, startled. The tangle of despair loosened around her limbs, and she pushed forward. "Ben." Just then, a flicker of light broke through a thread of golden hope slicing down the engulfing gloom. Leah threw herself toward it, her heart racing. But then it flickered again, vanishing into the blackness that surrounded her like a smothering blanket. Only through suffering, the guardian's voice murmured, dripping with malice. "You cannot save him unless you're willing to sacrifice." "No," she shouted again, determination igniting within. Images flashed, Ben's little hands reaching up for her, his laughter cutting through the suffocating dark. Every ounce of love she felt expanded, pushing away the shadows. Suddenly, the ground trembled, the walls of darkness shivered as if uncertain. Leah inhaled deeply, the taste of chilled air on her tongue. It wasn't surrender that would free him. It was the strength of a mother's love, forged in suffocating chaos. "Ben," she breathed, the name a prayer on her lips. "I will find you." The shadows quaked violently, as if recoiling from the intensity of her words. And then, with a deafening roar, the cloaked malevolence shifted. "No," the guardian howled, its fury like a violent wind. "You belong to me." But Leah felt something crack within the darkness, a ripple that shook the very foundation around her. The air thickened with desperation, shadows piercing her like daggers. Voices swirled, taunting her with memories of loss, yet she stood firm. Fighting against the tempest of fear, Leah surged forward as the glimmer of light flickered once more. "Ben," she cried, and through the howling chaos, his sweet voice responded, urgent and familiar. "Mom." It wasn't just a voice, it was a lifeline. It pulled at her heart, anchoring her spirit against the gale of despair. She dashed forward, grasping at that bright tendril of sound, driven by a primal need to protect. But the void darkened around her, growing heavier, and felt almost sentient, as if aware of her attempts to break free. No! The guardian thundered, its massive form towering, blotting out the light. You will never leave, she will never see you again. Clenching her fists, Leah steeled herself. The guardian was wrong. She wouldn't be broken by fear. Just then, she felt a shift, an icy touch whispered against her skin, and a vision materialized, one that sent her heart dropping. The hollow void was not just darkness but a reflection of her deepest fears, a glimpse of an empty house. Laughter replaced by silence. Forget him, the malevolent force coiled around her. A venomous hiss. Just give in, but Leah pressed on, forcing the image of Ben back into her mind. Never. With each breath, she tasted freedom. She took a step, then another. The shadows howled in fury as she surged forward, the light beckoning like a beacon. The darkness writhed, chaotic and alive, but Leah was resolute. This was not just her battle. It was a mother's war. But just as she felt the tendrils of light grasping at her, there was a spine-chilling crack. An echo thundered through the void, a promise of the chaos that lurked beyond the shadows. What price would she pay to save her son? With the shadows closing in around her like hungry wolves, Leah's heart thundered. Could she truly grasp that light before the darkness swallowed her whole? As the darkness shrieked in agony, she prepared for the final push, knowing the answer could change everything. What awaited her at the edge of that blinding light? Leah surged forward, heart racing, breaths coming in quick gasps. The darkness roared behind her, furious and hungry, but the light shimmered like a promised dawn. Ben! She cried again, voice raw yet filled with a fierce determination. The shadows screeched, twisting and gnashing in response. But she refused to falter. This was not just about survival. It was about love, about wrenching her son from the cold clutches of despair as she ran. A wave of memories cascaded over her. Ben's laughter, bright and infectious, filtered across her mind, anchoring her to hope. I won't let you down, baby, she choked out, pushing through layers of darkness that clawed at her. Each step forward felt like a gamble, but she would risk it all for the sake of his innocence. Suddenly, the well of shadows erupted behind her, a roiling torrent of despair that erupted like a storm. Leah could feel the guardianess' wrath coursing through the ground beneath her feet, the heavy weight of its presence suffocating and malignant. You cannot leave, it bellowed, voice dripping with malice. You belong to me. But she pressed on, heart pounding not just from fear, but from the energy radiating from her will to survive. I won't be yours. I refuse. Each word fueled her resolve, igniting a flame of resistance that pushed past her doubts. The flicker of light before her transformed into an ethereal glow, brightening with every step. It was no mere trickery of the shadows. It was real, a tangible warmth radiating like the sun piercing through dark clouds. And then, she saw him. Ben stood at the edge of the clearing, a small figure wrapped in the golden light of hope. The look in his eyes, wide with relief and fear, sent a jolt of adrenaline through her. Mom! In that moment, Leah felt a rush of clarity. It didn't matter how deep the darkness swelled. She would pull her son from it. No more choices, no more sacrifices. It was time to reclaim what was rightfully hers. She dashed to him, every ounce of her being focused on reaching him, on feeling his warmth return to her. But the guardianess voice tightened around her, clawing at her thoughts. You think you can escape me? I will consume everything. The shadows swirled around Leah, growing stronger, each tendril reaching for her, coiling tightly around her limbs. Panic surged. Yet, at that moment, she realized her true power wasn't just in her fight against the dark, but in her unconditional love. I won't fight you anymore, she shouted, her voice resonating through the dark. I accept the light. I choose love. With those words, Leah felt the shadows constricting her limbs shatter. Instead of fear, she embraced the essence of motherly love. A warm light emitted from within her, bright and unfaltering. It radiated outward, igniting the shadows that had once threatened to consume her. "Ben, take my hand," she shouted, and to her relief, he reached for her, hands clasping together as light engulfed them. The forest trembled. The shadows screeched in pain, swirling and disintegrating beneath the brilliance of Leah's love-filled resolve. "No," the guardian roared, its power unraveling under the intensity of their bond. The air thickened and pulsed, breaking apart the darkness surrounding them. "You will regret this." But Leah refused to let fear seep back into her heart. "We are stronger together," she cried, and in an instant, the dark murmurs faded. Her past, her pain, and the sorrow of not just her son but all the children lost in this cursed land glittered like worn-out stars, pulled back into the light. Together, they stepped into the shimmering glow that was no longer a mere flicker but a celestial radiance, enveloping their spirits in warmth and safety. In an explosion reminiscent of dawn breaking, the darkness imploded with a final scream, spiraling into nothingness. The woods quaked, shadows erased, and the very essence of the guardian evaporated into the ether, leaving behind only the soft whisper of wind and the last remnants of its anguish. As silence enveloped them, Leah knelt down, holding Ben tightly. The boy clutched her, with wide eyes, relief flooding his features. "You found me, Mom." "Yes, sweet boy. I'll always find you," she whispered, tears of joy blurring her vision. Together, they turned toward the town, back toward Main Street, the sun now stretching across the Appalachians in a myriad of soft hues, painting the remnants of their fears in light. Together, they would rebuild their lives, reclaim their joy, and carry the memories of lost children in their hearts, honoring those shadows while fully embracing the light ahead. And as they walked, Leah held Ben's small hand tightly, knowing that no darkness would ever claim them again. So, if you felt a spark of hope in this tale, an urgency to discover more gripping stories, make sure you subscribe immediately. This is the moment to show your support for our community. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm and help us grow. Don't wait even one more second. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this wild ending, and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Let's spread the light together.